I'd now like to introduce you to your presenter. Guy Lamar is Senior Support Analyst at Omnitrax, and he has some good information for you today. So Guy, let's get started.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. A little bit about me. I've been with Omnitrax for over 19 years. I've been in a support role majority of the time, which means when you call in for support, you may get a hold of me. I also go out to customers and do implementations and training on site as well. So a little bit about our agenda today. We'll first of all go over a little bit about Omnitrax RoadNet Technologies. Then we will define routing methods, and then figure out which methods we can match our goals to, so which strategy to match our goals to. How to use multiple methods, and then some Q&A at the end. If I can advance the slide. All right. Omnitrax RoadNet Technologies is represented in 61 countries, covering 18 languages. We have over 3,800 customer locations. You can see from the map that we are definitely worldwide. And we route over 300,000 vehicles daily. We are represented in a number of industries, such as food service, waste, beverage, furniture, and paper. And you can see the rest of them there as well. We also are across multiple platforms, both for our back-end system as well as our mobile mobile system as well. So we all operate under iOS, Android, and Windows Mobile on handheld solutions, and we are a standalone system using Microsoft Access, and enterprise-based using Oracle and SQL, and then we are SaaS or web-based as well with the RoadNet Anywhere product. So some common maintenance items that across all routing methods are the locations. Locations are who you do your services with, whether you deliver, pick up, or anything in between. One of the most important items is to geocode. Where exactly is that location on the map? You need to have a good USPS address so they can find it, and so can we. That will give you a street address. Additionally, you may find that even though the address is geocoded to the main street, you deliver to the rear of the building. Well, that's where the delivery door is. So we can geocode to that location as well. It makes them for much more accurate routing. Another common item is time to service. So how long do your drivers or do your service people work at each location? This can be affected by stairs, by security, by having to take elevators. All those items can come into play as time to service, or what we call service time. Lastly, delivery times. Your customers are open certain portions of the day, or 24/7, but they also normally have a preferred delivery window. So when do they want you to provide your service to them? Those three items can come into play while you're doing your routing. Routing methods defined. The simplest and the most straightforward routing method is a standard or template routing. So what that is you have a template that you've already pre-sequenced with certain stops on it. In my example here, I have C-store number 1, restaurant number 1, 2 other C-stores, and then another restaurant. If orders come in, and it doesn't matter in which order the orders come in, they will always be routed in the order of the template. So in my example again, restaurant number 2's order came in first, then C-store number 1, then C-store number 3. That's to be the way the salesman sent the orders back to the host system. When we route, we will automatically route it in the order of the template. So as I said, it's straightforward. If the order comes in, it's put on the route in the order you have the sequence. It does not look necessarily at how full the route is or whether I'm hitting my time windows or anything like that. It's a straight sequenced route. So some pros for standard routing are maintains consistent customer service. One of the items about standard routes are you are pre-assigned a driver to each route. So that driver is always going to see the same customers every week, so he builds a nice rapport with them. You can also pre-assign equipment to the route, so the same driver has the same equipment on the same routes each day, each week. Cons for that are it may result in higher delivery costs. If your sequencing is not done well in your template, then your driver is going to be driving all over the place. It is difficult to maintain with inconsistent sales because of the nature of standard routing. If I only get one stop on Route 3 today, I will create a route with only one stop on it. That's an inefficient use of your resources. Route maintenance as new customers are obtained. So if I end up getting 15 new customers, I've got to add them to certain routes, and I've got to rebalance my standard routes, my templates, to make sure I don't put everybody on one place. Lastly, when you do your initial routing pass, it may create an unbalanced initial load, so that my first route may have 10% full, a last route may have 130% full, based on the orders for the day. Obviously, they can be manually manipulated to correct those, but the idea is we want the software to do the majority of the work. Second method is dynamic routing. Dynamic routing will create routes based only on the orders that are available in the system. So if I get 20 orders for that day, I may create 2 routes of 10 orders. If I get 100 orders, I may create 10 routes of 10 orders. So we will only look at those orders that you have today. Maintenance is the key. Go back to a couple slides ago where we mentioned the geocoding and the service time assigned to the customer. As long as those are accurate and up to date, then we will create very good routes. When we do dynamic routing, we cluster stops geographically, so everybody in the north part of the city will be routed together. Everybody in the south part of the city will be routed together. So we try to keep them as close as we can. We create routes based on other variables as well. How many vehicles do you have? What's the total runtime you're looking for? What other rules and constraints do you have? And what are the service times available to each of those customers? Dynamic routing has several variations. 2 of them are cell routing and zone routing. These are very similar, where the difference being cell routing has a physical boundary, and if you look by the 1, 2, and 3, I've created 3 cells on my map. What happens with those is strict adherence to each cell, so each cell will have at least one route. They will not cross cell boundaries. A way to get around that is the zone routing. A zone routing is an arbitrary boundary, and it gives you some flexibility between the zones. I chose this example for, I was at a customer up in Boston area that had the same scenario. And what we did is we created zone 1, so all the customers in cell 1 were assigned zone 1, zone 2, cell 2 to zone 2, and so forth. And what this allowed us to do is route zones 1 and 2 together so we can catch some overflow, and then we routed zones 2 and 3 together to create any kind of imbalances, and we tried to reduce that as much as we could. Two other variations for dynamic routing are preferred routes and then standard route fragments. Preferred routes to me are dynamic standard routes. You can set up the same customers on the same route with the same driver, but being preferred, it allows RoadNet to create the route in the sequence that best suits that day. Now, either one of these also allows the system to add extra stops to the route to fill out my preferred delivery time. So my first part there is gold 3. For a standard route fragment, I will set up my first 2, 3, 4 stops that I want delivered in a particular order. So anytime they are on a stop, or I'm sorry, anytime they have orders, they will be on the route at the top of the route. After that, we will dynamically fill out the time with other locations that are close to those stops. Preferred routing can do the same thing, but we will intermix the unassigned stops, or those that aren't on part of that standard route or preferred route, and make a better sequenced route from top to bottom, not just from the end of my fragment. Pros of dynamic routing. And keep in mind, these will vary based on the different methods you have chosen. Ultimately, we'll end up with fewer trucks. We'll have improved sequencing of stops. This would include the time windows or a straight sequence. Customers are clustered by location. We ultimately will reduce miles, and we can decrease the run time. And by reducing miles, we're going to lower costs just for the trucks not being on the road as much. And we're don't need to maintain the route templates. Cons potentially could be customers lose consistency with drivers. Drivers are unfamiliar with some of the territories they go into. And it may require daily assignment of driver and equipment to each route. So when I do my routing, what do I consider when I actually try to create a route? Well, first of all, I want to look at how many customers have orders. I mentioned earlier, it could be 10, it could be 20, it could be 130. Where are these customers? So where are the locations for each of these deliveries I need to make, or each people I need to service? If they're all grouped in one small area, that makes routing pretty easy. What types of equipment do I have each day? That may vary if trucks go into repair or they need to be worked on. The capacity for the equipment. How much can each piece of equipment hold? Service time for each stop. Special delivery instructions. Go see Joe to collect your money. Go to the side door today. What time windows do we have? When do I actually need to be at this customer? And lastly, what kind of equipment restrictions do these customers have? Can they only accept trucks that are less than 30 feet? And so forth. Okay, so when you're considering routing, what are your goals? Are you customer service driven? So are you looking more at driver-customer relations? Do you want to try to minimize cost and distance? Trying to maximize your service window efficiency? Or are you trying to maximize your equipment utilization? Or some combination of all four of them? If your goal is customer relations, then you want to use either standard template routing or the preferred routing ID, or preferred routing that I mentioned earlier. That you can assign or pre-assign your drivers and your equipment to certain locations and routes. One example of this is we had a customer that actually had 25 trucks, and as soon as they started using their system, they decreased the number of routers from 3 down to 1. So they had 3 people routing 25 trucks, and the system took it down to 1. And at the same time, they improved their route visibility, and they allowed or increased their customer satisfaction because things start to get done on a more regular basis. So standard route fragment and preferred routes. The picture on the left is a fragment that we started that has a very mixed up route. And on the right is a preferred route where you let the system do the sequencing. It's a much smoother route and has saved you time and money based on the number of miles you've driven. Goals and efficiencies. If your goals are to minimize cost and distance, maximize service window efficiency, and maximize equipment utilization, then you want to use some form of dynamic routing. And as I mentioned before, there are multiple variations of it, so you may want to mix and match to get the best use out of the system. Efficiency example, we had customers, both large and small, that wanted to minimize their cost and distance. You'll see on the left-hand side, a customer that had 15 semi and box trucks and 150 customer delivery trucks. They got a result of 19% reduction in miles. Additionally, they missed possible time windows cut by 50%, so they improved their on-time performance as well. On the right-hand side, it's only a 40-truck vehicle or a 40-truck business, but their first year savings were $300,000, and they eliminated 4 conventional routes. So they had less trucks on the road delivering or taking care of the same number of customers. All right, if my goal is to maximize service window efficiency, again, we have a customer that went from 85 trucks that increased their on-time performance by 96%, or up to 96%. Okay. Additionally, they reduced their annual miles 400,000 miles with a 50% increase in cube per route. So they started loading their trucks more efficiently. The only way to do that is by routing more efficiently. Lastly, to maximize your equipment utilization, we have, again, it's a large customer here with 115 tractors and 250 trailers. They increased their cube per load by 14.2%. Over that many trucks and trailers, that's quite a bit. The driver's hours were reduced by 8.4%. Again, increasing your profit by reducing your costs. Their mileage also mileage decreased by 2.2%. So you can see where the system will definitely make a difference in your work. Mix and match in multiple regions or multiple routing methods. If you have a customer, or if you are a customer that has multiple regions or even multiple depots, you may want to treat them differently. If your region has experienced drivers with established relationships with customers, then you may want to look at either the preferred routing or the standard template routing. If your second region or second depot has new and only some gold customers, you want to have a consistent relationship, then you can use either the fragments or also the preferred routes. They'll both give you the same thing. The biggest takeaway with this is you want to not think of your whole routing delivery area as one answer. It's going to be multiple ways to do the same thing. Delivery types. A number of my food service customers do bulk trucks or bulk deliveries as a standard route because they're more consistent. They know each store is going to deliver or order the same amount each week, so they're able to do that. The smaller stops, like the convenience stores and the restaurants, you never know what they're going to order because it's based on what they sell. So you can use them as a true dynamic route and let them do the orders as they come in. Geographic challenges, city versus rural. Routing in New York City is a lot different than routing in Iowa. You have a very large area to cover with the same number of customers as you do in 2 blocks in New York. Just remember, you are not alone. With our system, with Omnitrax RoadNet Professional Services, we have training at Omnitrax RoadNet University. We have customized training. We have on-site consultant. We also have value-added services and systems integration, and opportunity assessment to see where we can help you improve your routing and your business. So as a summary, your company goals can be matched to various routing methods. Let's think before we start just throwing out, I want to do it this way or I want to do it that way. Let's take a look at your customers, your history, and your delivery area and try to match things together. Multiple routing methods can be used to achieve these goals. Remember, each delivery area you have may not be treated the same way. It may not have to be treated the same way. And Omnitrax RoadNet Technologies combines the flexibility to accommodate all these methods.